Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM, and this is Dungeons and Dragons Through the Ages Part 4, The Wizard. To my right,
I'm Troy, the Planescape guy.
to my left.
Gwydion the Long-Winded.
He has been living up to that today. So, we are in first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, our first hardback printing.
And I'm not allowed to talk on
It's all good. So, this was the game system that Troy really started in. I played a lot of. Mr. Producer's dead now. So
It's on automatic. We're okay.
yeah, but we have a few changes here, but not with hit dice. We're still a D4 hit die for the wizard, which still makes you the glass cannon coming into this edition, as we saw with the white box and the 5-box set. So we're still limited as well to cloth and I believe daggers.
Yeah.
Gwydion, do you remember if we got any expansion to weapons, or are we still basically daggers?
Daggers and magic stuff. So we get to play with stuff.
Right.
And that's where it all comes together, is being able to use all the rings and the wands, the wonderful things that AD&D brought into the system. Even though there was a lot that was brought out into the basic set.
Right.
They really flesh out a lot more here.
As we continue to see
Yeah.
that expand, we really get. Yeah, I think they saw that the expansion was good, and then really brainstormed that and brought us a bunch here for.
Let's find ways to where they can protect themselves via spells,
Right.
and where they can have access to or find or buy or make items that's going to help keep them alive. So
Right.
in AD&D, they came out with character sheets. Of course, they did beforehand too. They came out with character sheets because it was more, better, gooder, and they could survive actually as a first level. Now, the character classes were grouped into one of 4 groups. That was one of the first changes. Warrior, of course, fighter, paladin, ranger. Wizards were a mage and a specialist wizard.
Yeah, we had more subclassing here, so
Yeah, priest,
like
cleric, druid, rogue, thief, bard. So
yeah, we talked about it a little bit in fighter, where paladin was actually a subclass of fighter, and it did kind of move in that regard. But here with wizard, we'll see things like illusionist, specifically. Getting back to the equipment, just before we move on completely there, Troy, what was some of the equipment that we could see a wizard use outside of just daggers?
Oh, you mean for fighting?
Yeah,
His wit.
there we go. So
A good pair of shoes for running.
yes,
So fighters still had
It was their job.
soul purview on magic arms, magic armor,
Not my
and some some basic utility stuff.
yeah.
But if it came to actually utilizing magic, you were either a magic user, and thieves had a slight chance to activate devices or things, but really that wasn't
Yeah.
what they did. It was magic users that
Thieves
did
could
magic.
do some scrolls.
Yeah.
And they had percentage chance to do even some more. But that was about their limit of. They couldn't just pick up a rod or a staff or something and instantly know what that was a magic user's job. Hence this title.
Sure.
He was a magic user. That's what he did.
One of the things we do see, and I want to touch on here in a little bit more, is multi-class. Was really an
Multi-class.
option here.
Yes.
So, Gwydion, remind us what we could do in the earlier editions.
I know.
yeah.
Like, so if I wanted to be
You're a magic user.
an elf magic user
You
fighter,
could be a magic user or a fighter. You could not multi-class. You couldn't be an elf or a dwarf magic user. There were strict
No.
lanes you had to stay
Well,
in.
you had
No
to
multi-class.
you had to declare
Declare
for today's
as a
game
magic
session,
user. Yep.
I'm a magic user.
Yep.
With all the restrictions that came, no armor, no weapons, dagger, spells only.
Yep.
But
Next game, fighter, got to put all the armor on and do all those things and go up front.
so we'll see a little bit more flexibility in the characters as we come into first edition, particularly as we see expansion of magic and greater access to magic across the classes. So we also got some additional races that were pretty handy with magic. Was that right, Gwydion?
Yeah, there was some new races that were brought about. Gnomes, the half-elf, and the half-orc. Included some options for the halflings to include stouts and tall fellows, where stouts had a little more constitution. Tall fellows were a little better with with strength and stuff like that. And they introduced the 9 levels of alignment in AD&D here as well, even though they brought it out basic.
Right.
AD&D being the separate lane where you were either playing the basic edition, the original D&D, and so on, and following that. AD&D came out, and it followed this path, so AD&D had the 9 levels of alignment.
Right, because
lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil,
yeah,
and so on.
It's important to note what Gwydion's going to have. This printing was even on top of the 5-box set that we had.
Yeah.
So in the middle of that, these books came out. That box set was still being published with expansions. Yeah. This was being published.
And
I think even
being published. 2.5 was published. The supplement years.
Well, then
all these things were published, and then everything stopped. And 3rd edition came out, which was not called Advanced D&D. It was just 3rd edition with the D20 rules, and that's where the other 2 stopped.
Right.
Everything culminated and moved on. 3, 3, 5, Pathfinder, 4, and 5.
So where they had gotten to in the 5-box set with the expert rules expansion at that point, we're going to see a lot of those spells carried forward here into 1st edition, and certain things like alignment. Alignment was not necessarily a huge factor for a magic user. We saw that more for your paladin and cleric, though it could definitely flavor your character and your game.
They showed experience levels to 18th level here. With every additional level requiring a simple 375,000 experience points. It didn't keep going up like it did in the other. And instead of all the calculations required in the original rules. Usable spell levels are shown through 29th level as far as on that chart. And we had 194 spells to choose from.
Yeah,
so we had a huge arsenal.
That spell list in the red and blue boxes was still at 12. That was 1st level.
Yeah.
12 spells at 1st level. Here now, 1st level, 40.
Yes.
40.
Yeah. And I believe that list is duplicated here in the Unearthed Arcana.
Some
also
spells,
showing 40.
Yeah.
Some spells came out in Unearthed Arcana. Some new spells came out in the Player's Handbook.
So, 40. Troy, as we're looking at here, I know a lot of our games got around 5th or 6th level. How many 1st level spells would you anticipate to have in that area? So you got the chart right there. 1st level spells known.
I got to have my basic 4: read, write, detect, identify, or I can't do my job. And there's read magic. There's write, detect, and identify. So read magic, write magic, detect magic, identify magic.
And then at 5th level, how many 1st level spell slots do you have?
Oh, at 5th level?
Yeah.
4.
So
Any 0 level spells?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you.
Not yet.
Not yet.
0 level
Although,
or cantrips were later.
They're Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
Oh, Unearthed Arcana.
Right here, magic user cantrips.
Okay.
Unearthed Arcana. That's where you get them, baby.
Yep.
Page 30 there, guys.
There's 20 of them in 1st level.
That's right.
Give us a few examples of that.
So, well, I'm sorry. There's more than 20. So, chill, color, dry, exterminate. You can kill a bug. Polish,
or rat swarm. We would use it on rat swarm.
salt. Oh, I do believe my cantaloupe needs some salt on it.
Well, you can actually create salt and sell it, because back then things like salt and spices were worth a lot of money and wasn't just everywhere. And pepper was just kind of unheard of because all the process it took to actually make and grind and put peppercorns out.
So there's a whole long list of them, and typically what I would do with my players, making a magic user, is in your spell book at 1st level, I would give you 8 cantrips, pick them, because in my mind, you as a magic user going through school, before you graduated, you had to learn how to do something, and you learned how to do cantrips.
What are the categories of the cantrips?
Well, there's useful, and they are useful. Ledger why you got me?
Ledger domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Person affecting, personal, haunting.
Haunting.
Yeah, creek,
What's that,
football.
reversed?
Yeah, reversed. These are ones that can be reversed.
Yeah.
Or is the reverse of. So there's curdle, dirty, hairy.
Not.
Yeah.
Not
tarnish.
Tarnish.
Tarnish or shine.
I cast it on his reputation.
Yeah. Ledger domain, person affecting, personal, and haunting. That's cool.
Yeah.
So
unlock under personal. So you could unlock you could just walk up. That was a great cantrip.
A simple lock. Yes.
If it's a simple lock, just click, and walk right into somebody's house.
And
hey, got any great coupon?
As a first level magic user, according to these books here, you could cast 4 cantrips for the price of 1 first level spell.
First level spell, yes.
Okay.
4.
Yep.
Right. And
So,
But you had to trade.
yeah,
You couldn't
had to
have your
trade 'em.
first level spells and cantrips, which came later. You had to trade a first level spell for 4 cantrips. So if you found a 5th cantrip that you just had to have, you had to trade a second first level spell,
yeah.
and you got 8.
And so then you only get 4 by the time you're level 5.
Yeah.
And
But they're very handy.
no, for
Yeah.
sure.
They're very, very handy.
Prestidigitation, and we've seen the expansion of cantrips as the system has advanced. Where we see now in 5th, they're much more formalized. And that started in 3rd edition and moved forward from there.
So typically with my magic users, when they were first level, they had a total of 12 spells in their first spell book.
Right.
They had 8 cantrips and then 4 first level spells.
Right.
And those were the spells, that's what they got to choose from for their list for the day.
Right, because you could still only memorize and cast so many per
Yep.
day in your spell slots. But as we mentioned before, in your spell book, you could potentially have the entire 192.
You could have one,
194.
Sorry, 194.
All right.
you can't cast them.
No. And the book or books that were required to have it, because they were specific in these. You had to have a wizard book. But if you lost the wizard's book, you did not lose the spell. They spoke about that, and I can't remember which one it was. Might be later on they spoke about if you lost your book, you didn't lose the spells. You still had the innate ability.
Oh, sure.
But I think in the first ones you could, and that was one of the aspects of when you attacked a wizard.
Yeah.
Because they now call magic users wizards. It was in Scotch. Sometimes if you went after their book, you could get anything out of
So do we remember in Conan the Destroyer
it.
where he picks up the wizard on the beach?
Yeah.
Okay. I love this, guys. Anyway, barbarians in North Canada, this when they come out into the system, they have a unique relationship with magic. May I read?
No, go.
Please.
They refuse to employ any sort of magic item if they recognize it as such. That's very important. They will often seek to destroy the magic items, and if successful, they will receive the experience point award as if they possessed the item. So I break it because I don't trust it. Right. And it also says, while magic users will be shunned initially, they will always be viewed with suspicion.
Right.
So even though Conan had the guy coming with him, he's still, I can't fight magic. I know I can't fight magic. That's why I get my wizard. My wizard, you fight his wizard.
Yeah.
These 50 guys got me surrounded. I can deal with those.
And that's why when the opening presented itself, he checked a knife.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he knows that.
He knows that.
That's right.
He knows how to do that.
So, we've seen Barbarian in some of the earlier TSR stuff, formalized in our Arcana.
Yes.
And we don't see some of the mistrust of magic moving forward thematically in the game system, but it was very interesting here in 1st edition.
And now in 5th edition, you can have, what do they call it? They have different barbarian somethings.
Yeah.
They're barbarian / something else.
Right.
And they use magic. They have wild magic. They have all this.
Sure. And those
craziness.
restrictions are really have been lifted and sort of things. Right. But yeah, barbarian magic user would not be a combo that's allowed thematically because of the barbarian's mistrust of magic.
Not in 1st or 2nd edition anyway. No.
Right. So let's see.
With the addition of all these spells, there were again certain ones that could really break a game, and certain ones that were just cool to use. And it may not be your first choice, but if you ever took them and used it, you would see how useful it was. Blink was one of those 3rd level spells that most people were like, Fireball!
Fireball!
Is the first choice. Blink, where you could you're gone and somewhere else. Incredibly useful spell, especially for a wizard. Now, of course, Planescape guy, the expansion of the multiverse came out, in AD&D.
Yeah, Dungeon
And
Master's Guide included a lot of information.
That was incredible. So that gave us even more worlds and gave us even more modules. We started seeing a lot more commercial modules. Companies like Judges Guild and so many others that were out there started coming out with all these modules and games, and some of them were specific for certain characters. Yeah, my Manual of Planes.
Oh, yeah.
First edition.
That's right. Came out with a lot of different stuff. The made me lose my train of thought because I wanted to put this in my backpack.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, with the expansion of information regarding the planes, particularly as a Magic user, even a multi-class Magic user, we now have even more information to bring those elements into our campaigns. The pre-printed material was definitely expanded on. Being able to take a module here and a module here, link them together.
The challenges, they came out with all the challenges, because they had the fighter challenge, had the thief challenge, had a Magic user challenge, and so on, those sort of things. Those were great campaigns to run. We had 8 schools of Magic now. AD&D came up with 8 schools of Magic. Abjuration, Alteration, Conjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Illusion, Invocation, and Necromancy.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was just a school of Magic, and I'm not sure where the necro spells came in, but it was in the description.
Well, some of them would be like
because
cause,
levels in school.
Yeah, some of them are clerical, some of them are Magic.
Yeah.
So they're.
So we had 8 schools of Magic and the 9 levels of alignment.
The different schools of Magic more predominant in 2nd edition.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a lot of expansion of it, so then you could become an evoker or a necromancer, an enchanter. Those sorts of things started to really have impact.
Now,
but that was 2nd edition.
Yeah, in AD&D 1, they did separate the illusionist.
Yes.
Yeah, particularly as a like that was the first specialist we saw.
Yes. Was the illusionist. They had levels 1 through 12 with 220,000 experience points required for each level beyond. Their spell usage table showed up to level 26 before you had to do your own calculations. Here again, be good in math. They had 66 spells plus 30 first level Magic user spells at the ready. So
and cantrips, I believe.
They
illusionists.
This is their specific.
That's their specific.
They also have access to these.
Yeah, they had the first level spells, and I didn't know about the cantrips, but I thought they did. I just don't remember
because
reading
they showed it as a subset. Yeah,
that's right.
And
so they would.
And this is one of the things, particularly with Illusionist, where you can multi-class more freely in this system. Thief Illusionist really came into its own.
Thief Illusionist. Oh, poof! You see the door. I'm behind my illusion picking the lock. The guards never see me because my illusion is in the way.
And we see that now as a path for characters in 5th edition. As a thief, you go assassin or illusionist, right out of the player's handbook. This was sort of the first time we really see that character concept. Not only be very easy to put together, but to be very effective as too. We've got a lot of spell choices. The thief themselves had a lot of ability for just their regular thief skills. And so multi-classing Thief Illusionist was just one of those things that made a lot of sense.
And a lot of the spells would cater to an illusion, or cater to a thief perfectly.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, even if you didn't want somebody else in your stuff, wizard block.
Yeah.
And it's like, good luck getting that open.
Some of the illusionist things that we had, I mean, Dim, Mask, Mirage, some of the higher level stuff.
Well, look at the cantrips. You just want... I could cast 4 of those for one first level spell.
So whistle, footfall, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The thing I loved about AD&D over the basic was how the spells now showed everything, which their level, range, duration, area of effect, component requirements, casting time, any applicable saving throws. This was now the norm and continues to today. And that made it more enjoyable.
They started with the red and blue box, bringing all that information out of the text of the spell and put it up front so you could see it. So the nuts and bolts of the spell, you could very quickly look at that and say, oh, well, that's not going to work in this situation.
Right.
I'm going to move on to something else. instead of reading the whole page.
And trying to pick pieces out.
Yeah.
Or going to chain it.
Well, certainly. God, so, but let's go ahead and reference that too. Oh man, but it did make as a player, it made the time to come and sort of learn new spells when you're picking them. Like, what have I got? What do I need? What do we anticipate in the future? Where do I need to build my character in the shortest term? It was nice to be able to have this new information come forward.
Yeah.
And it sped up play. It did a lot to speed up play. As a if you're waiting on your magic user, he knew exactly what would and wouldn't work, and typically we're sitting there reading spell descriptions and slowing down the play.
Hopefully.
Well, that's why we have heavy objects. You just throw giant dice at people.
Psionics were eventually taken out
No,
of
they're
the
not.
player's handbook. It was taken out.
Yeah.
And given its own book, the complete book of psionics. Still don't care.
No.
And I never said simplified.
I think
So
Oh,
it was,
no.
No, it
the
was not
psionics,
simplified.
psionics are in the back of the player's handbook, but
Yeah,
that's
and it
where
was
they
taken
belong.
out. It was taken out in
Yeah,
one of the,
Yeah,
in the
later
printings.
printings. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
took psionics just completely out and said, if you want psionics,
it's right over
get
there.
the book.
Pick a book.
Mhm.
Yep.
I don't use it. So, first edition, they changed the magic missile a little bit.
Mhm.
So in our red and blue box set, and before that, it was a die 6 for damage.
Yeah.
Everything in that pretty much is doing a die 6 for damage. First edition, now we're doing 1 die 4 plus 1
Mm-hmm.
per magic missile, and we get them every 2 levels. So at see, we have 2 shots at 3rd level, 3 shots at 5th level, 4 shots at 7th level.
Nice.
So we're getting them more, but they each do a little less.
Still with the ability to select a separate target for each
Multiple
missile,
targets. Yep.
or all missiles can strike one target. So,
So basically, you're trick shot artist in the Old West. I want 1 there. I want 2 in that guy. I want 1 in that guy. Here we go.
it was a good expansion for the utility of a lower level spell that could stay with you. So now I can deal with a lot of the small stuff very quickly. Or if I have a larger threat, I can still be effective even with a lower spell slot.
And things that the magic missile could also do is destroy somebody's concentration. You got a BBEG out there, and he starts to cast a spell.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot him.
Bam, 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 bam. Even if it didn't harm him because he had a reduction,
Yeah.
it would still distract him enough that it would stop his concentration.
Look at 5th level, 3 die 4 plus 3. You're looking at a total of 15 points.
Yeah, max 15.
That can be respectable if you roll good.
Particularly by the way that the hit points are still done in this system, even with the constitution bonuses and things of that nature.
But don't forget, you're not fighting them on your own, so you're going to be doing up to another 15 points of damage, plus whatever your party is doing to them.
Right.
Hopefully. All right. So we got our magic missiles. We talked about our ball bearing, breaking up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Fireball in this one is unlimited, starting with 1d6 per level of the caster.
Yeah.
And so
Woohoo!
as a 5th level, you gain access to 3rd level spells. Starts at 5d6 and goes from there.
100th level.
It is.
That's really kind of the crux of the introduction of AD&D. And
Well, by the time we get to this point, we've had so much good build-up in the white box and then in the 5-box basic set. That when AD&D came out, particularly here for Wizards, because that's where we saw a lot of expansion, was magic, magical effects, magic items. That there weren't a lot of changes, but it's so well presented.
And the
And it's-
culmination of
yeah.
it, and where they gave you a player's handbook and a dungeon master guide, and then separated the monsters
Right.
into their own book. So everything had its own book, and it's like, okay, everything in the player's guide, everybody can read that. Everybody's all right. Dungeon master, no.
Right. It meant that each book could be more tailored to who the audience is.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got tons of information in here as a player that's well laid out. That for every class that's included in the game.
Yeah.
There's nothing wanting that's not in a weird spot. I don't have to go and reference the DMG to figure out how this piece or that piece works.
Then that came out.
Yeah, the Unearthed Arcana.
And it expanded even further with spells and weapons and things, magical daggers.
Right.
and magical items that we could play with.
Yes, there are some magic items in there.
Yeah.
Half that book is for the GM, and half that book is for players.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that the information is directed towards stuff for players.
Yeah.
Stuff for DMs.
Expanded player options.
Yeah.
Don't forget, guys, that the Dungeon Master is a player.
Absolutely.
And so, while it might, there may be information that's more specific to running the game, the background of the game. Don't forget that your Dungeon Master is a player too.
Spell explanations in here. It helped out with certain aspects like 8th level spells and permanency. The spells upon which you could cast permanency that would effectively just stay. They had run.
Oh no!
So I guess that'd be until you died. Protection from evil, improvision, which very handy on that. Read magic, tongues, which is handy on a date. Unseen servant, and
So is Mage Hand.
yeah, Mage Hand's good too.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill everybody.
But,
Give me a second here.
I can't wait until we edit that out later.
Mr. Producer needs a hand with the camera, so I'll be ready.
Yeah. Permanency can be used on things like Magic Mouth, which was always fun. And if you wanted to leave a message, or here lies such and such, something like that on a crypt, you could do a Magic Mouth spell that activated just by proximity and such. The underwater spell use, they did categorize underwater spell use, and that really helped out, which went cleric, druid, magic user, illusionist, and so on, went through the spells there. And they started working on the background a little bit more. You didn't see a lot of that in the original series. It was pretty much up to you. They just said when you reach level 9 or when you're this character and you reach this level, you're supposed to do this, or this should become available to you, and now you got to pay taxes. This started going with a background and giving you, and this was out of some of the old dragons. I'm not sure which one. I know I've got it at home. But campaign was the social class and rank, where you started out, were you lower middle class, upper middle, were you upper class, and so on. The typical members of the class and how it was. They also capped where dwarves could be in that, elves, gnomes. Dwarves could be middle class. They're reputed to have gold and gems, and that's the only reason they got to middle class. Otherwise, they were considered lower class. Elves were lower class. Wood elves, upper class was gray elves because they were more intelligent and they would help with people and so on. Half orcs, lower class. Circumstances of birth, as far as.
But you gotta remember too, these are in the context of human societies.
Yeah.
And so you could
we
take
used
those
it with orcs. So we used and everybody
right.
else.
So you could take it and flip it. So if orcs are at the bottom of a human society and you flip it, and now you're in an orc tribe controlled territory and you're a human character, particularly in the setting of Greyhawk. Those sorts of things.
We keep the orcs outside the wall.
They gave racial modifiers for things, even marital status. But this is where you got not only more spells and scrolls, and they actually gave you here scrolls of protection and what each one of them are and how much they cost, or the experience point value.
That's manufacturer suggested retail price.
Yes, on the go. That is correct. Rod, staves, and wands, rings. So they expanded a whole lot of things that was available to the illusionist and the magic.
There's a lot of magic items and spells that came out with the Unearthed Arcana.
Acquisition of cantrips.
Yeah.
So,
how do you get them?
Types of
you
spell.
You can sit down and make one. Just like you research and make a spell, you can research and make up cantrips.
Yeah. I remember I used prestidigitation a lot. It's one that I keep on a lot of my casters, even to this day, as we play in 5th edition.
Sure.
It's just one of those, it's your catch-all, any sort of basic little magical effect. You knock the dirt off you light your pipe with your thumb,
My wife actually researched for a first level clean spell that would advance in area as you advanced in level.
Oh, so a 20th level would cast a clean cantrip and
just basically do a castle.
Yeah.
I can clean your whole house. It's going to cost you 1,000 gold. But I can clean your whole house, walk in, cast the spell, walk out. I'll take the gold, and have everything clean. So Yeah, she had some interesting ideas on that, she would take current spells, not like Control Sphincter, but current spells and expand on them.
Oh yeah.
And that was cool. So that was easier to work with, and something that a lot of people thought to do. But if you're looking to create your own spells, take something that's existing and add something to it, or make it cooler, or make it more powerful. Take some of these, like I said, prestidigitation, take clean, and go nuts with it.
This is where we got a lot of the iconic spells, the named spells.
Yes.
Melf's Acid Arrow, or something
Melf's
like
Acid Arrow.
Leomund's Tiny Hut.
Yeah.
These were the characters that they played with Gygax, him and his original crew. Leomund,
Kane's Faithful Hound.
Right. So, as those players with their wizards developed spells, we ended up getting those as spells that are available to us generally in AD&D or D&D generally. And so there's no reason why you couldn't have Gwydion's uninterrupted breath. And so
it's a permanent spell.
You cast a spell underwater.
But as particularly for your play world, as you play a wizard over time and you're looking to modify or adjust or create, homebrew is a big deal in 5th edition. And so one of the things you can do is, if some of these spells no longer came forward, we did see 3rd edition sort of restructure spells, and you could bring them back into your game with some changes to make it suit the world setting or the new rule system,
or whatever your DM allows, or GM in today's case. Cantrips first appeared in the Dragon magazine number 59 in 82. That's where cantrips first came up, and the article was called "Minor Magics for Would-Be Wizards," and so that was the first article. Then it showed up in Unearthed Arcana, which was the first place cantrips did show up. It was well supported by Forgotten Realms campaign setting, and had articles in the Dragon. Later in the official AD&D Forgotten Realms, and if you're and their supplements,
right?
And if you're not using the Greyhawk box set, if you're not using the Forgotten Realms city system, get it and use it, because you can create entire worlds from it, use pieces of it. It's got so much information. It's got maps, especially Forgotten Worlds city system. I think it's got 9 full humongous maps. It's
if you want
huge.
Waterdeep, like here is the map of Waterdeep.
Yeah.
Sanity. So
okay. A magic user first level higher could replace a single first level spell slot you said with 4 cantrips. That's where it came out. Spider, summon a spider was really useful, because if they combine it with Spider Eyes, you could see what the spider had. Hide with our thief over here. You could gather all the platinum pieces out of silver. Out of a pile of silver.
I had a thief magic user. He would use gather cantrips, 4 of them on you. Gather. I have all your stuff when I bump into you, because the casting time is near instantaneous. So I bump into you, 4 gathers. I have all your stuff.
Nice.
And I never touched you.
Wow.
Right, you never have to worry about the sleight of hand roll,
right?
Because the magic effect took care of it.
Right, and all your stuff's in my pocket.
And all he did was go back to his campsite, go into his tent, and dun, dun, dun.
Turns his pockets inside out so he can get it ready for the next one. So I wanted to talk a little bit, because we really started to see those world settings come out now. Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, Dark Sun, Ravenloft. Had a ton of expansion for world-specific spells, magic themes. Greyhawk is your high fantasy, but sort of a medium magic, where we got Faerun is your high fantasy, high magic setting. And so these things would make a lot of different player options available to you. The way that they flavored races, depending on the world setting, could change your player options too. And so
they built the challenges for each one of the classes. They would take a theme like slavers, and they would come out with all these different modules and so on. The individual modules started coming out with all the letters. We've got the B module.
Oh yeah, the X1, 2, and
So they started coming out with those and doing away with the dungeon delves. They now came up with stories, full storylines, and of course that happened before, but they were really fleshed out in AD&D, where they came out with full background storylines, people, NPCs were greatly expanded in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and these were now people and villagers, and you had to treat them that way. You had to treat them with respect. You didn't just go in and kick in a door and start taking stuff off the shelf. This was a society. And if you did something like that, your alignment changed, and you know everybody went to jail.
Essentially.
So a lot of more story focus and just a lot of option. We didn't talk the other like, so there's Thief Illusionist, but Fighter Magic User was the other magic user combo that you see a lot of.
Oh yeah.
And then I always like the magic user with the Ranger.
With the Ranger.
Yeah.
Ranger had a couple neat class features, but didn't have magic at this point. Unlike where we see 5th edition, Ranger has its own spell list. So
I would do a Druid Ranger, and that's just a tree hugging, arrow shooting son of a bitch.
Right, a magic user. So Druid, I think, was a subclass, or it was
Cleric. Druid
subclass cleric. Right,
yeah,
but
Druid Ranger is because in 1st edition you could do these dual classes that in earlier you really couldn't.
Yeah.
No, especially when you had to declare one or the other, and
you don't have
this
to.
was dual class.
Right, versus
AD&D,
multi,
dual class.
I get 1,000 experience points. 500 goes on fighter. 500 goes on magic user. So they both
You would dual
advance.
class.
And because of the point cutoffs at different levels are a little different, you don't really advance together, but you advance.
And if you multi-class, you're just the slowest person in the party, and it's like, wow, you're useless. Why were you a cleric, magic user, druid? You know?
there were some goofy ones. 2 was probably the limit in this game system.
Yeah.
But I wanted to
Dual
mention
class.
that the dual class or multi-class features and flexibility sort of brought us forward into what we see with 5th edition, where we've got more magic or magic effects that are part of classes. We see Eldritch Knight used to be a prestige class in 3rd edition, is now a pathway for 5th edition, right in the player's handbook. And it doesn't mean that 5th edition doesn't benefit from dual class. We've seen some pretty interesting dual class concepts in 5th, but I feel the flexibility that it added here in 1st was unparalleled.
Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the companion rules is unarmed combat was explained and brought out in the companion rules. And in my estimation, now even a magic user could get into a bar fight.
Well, he'd still only take one punch or so.
Oh, wait a minute. That's where
You can
I
swing a
would
bar
change.
stool.
That's where I would change hit points from the way they had it in the books.
Right.
I had 2 types: lethal and non-lethal.
Well, if,
And
at a
so in a
D4,
bar-
non-lethal is still unconscious.
It's still unconscious, and after you find 0, well, now it turns lethal.
Right.
After that, but so it helped let things go further. But Unarmed Arcana then took unarmed combat and expanded.
Yeah.
Right, because we started to see in later 1st edition expansions like Monk, and brought out further player options and things that were really interesting.
And weaponless combat, or the
Right.
I can't think of it when you just pick up a stick or a chair. The
Improvised.
thank you, improvised.
Read the cue card.
I can.
That's the K card. The Q card's.
Yikes!
Yeah, so
Just dated yourself.
a little bit. The Wizard was still really strong, and there's no way I'd want to play in 1st edition without a Wizard in my party.
Yeah.
So
Makes a party.
party.
Makes a party happen.
Yep. I think that pretty much covers it for AD&D 1.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
So if that's the case, let's go ahead and put these books away. We'll grab our 2nd edition books right after the break.
Oh, and expanded magic. Because
Yes.
we're talking about the magic user. I've got a stack to show off. There.
There's quite a lot that came out in the 2nd edition era
Yes.
that did insane amounts of expansion for all classes, but magic in particular.
Yeah.
So we're gonna-
AD&D 2, the supplement years.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So again, like, comment, subscribe, share. We'd like to hear feedback wherever you happen to find this video.
Yeah.
And until after the break, I'm Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM,
I'm Troy, the Planescape guy.
I'm Gwydion the Long-Winded.
and we'll be right back with you in just a couple minutes.